This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and Upsnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Dr. Anne Marie Evers Show. The doctor is in the house. Do 2 affirmations and call me in the morning. Change your life one new thought at a time. Make your dreams come true. Attract that lasting, loving relationship, successful career, radiant health, and abundant wealth. Tune in to the Dr. Anne Marie Evers Show and learn positive ways to get what you want on www.contacttalkradio.com.
And welcome to the Dr. Anne Marie Evers Show, where dreams really can and do come true. And welcome to the home of affirmations and lots of other things and thoughts, mind power, and also to the world of the unknown, and as some people call it the known. And today, as I promised, my very special guest is Garnet Schulhauser, and we're going to be talking about some things that are of interest to people and some, things like that. But first, I'd like to welcome my guest. Welcome to the show again. It's always delightful to have you as a guest on my show, Garner.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ann, and I'm always delighted to be on your show. You're a great host, and I always enjoy the interviews.
Well, thank you. This has been kind of a thing with what do you call it? Electronics. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they don't work the way we expect them to, do they? Yeah. But anyway, now I wanted to ask you a few things that people have been asking me. People ask, the main question is, how can he or she cope better with COVID-19? And would you share some simple ideas and ways with our listeners to get them through this worldwide pandemic that we're going through, Garnet?
Sure, and I've talked to my spirit guide Albert about this, and anyway, what I'm going to tell you is nothing that's very new. It's been kicked around for a long time. Anyway, so the simple advice is follow your health officials in your jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Follow what they're recommending in terms of avoiding the virus, the disease, and to take care of yourself and your family. So that means that if it's appropriate, you wear a mask when you're out in public where you can't social distance where you can, avoid large gatherings, especially indoors, because that's a good place for the virus to spread. Yeah. And be careful when you send your children to school. If you have children that you're sending off to school, then pay close attention to what the school authorities are telling you to do, what they recommend, and make sure that you monitor your children when they come back. If they have any symptoms, to make sure that you call the health authorities or get a test or whatever they recommend. So this pandemic it seems quite awful to us, and Albert says that we will come out of it at the end of it actually stronger than we were before. But we're not through it yet, and there's going to be some more cases, people contacting the disease. There's going to be some more deaths, but eventually we will get through it. They will develop a vaccine that will work. They will also develop a therapeutic that will work, but it's just a little ways off on the horizon. And Albert never gives me a time frame, so he's not going to say it's going to happen by the end of the year or middle of next year or whatever. He won't say that, but he says that things are progressing nicely, and we just have to sort of batten down the hatches and tough it through and understand that we will get through it.
I love that, and all you folks listening that have been calling me and emailing me about this, please listen to what Garnet has said, and I agree totally with everything you said, and also to not dwell on the negative. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. There's no point in, we have to maintain a positive attitude, and if you dwell on the negative, then all that does is leads to, perhaps depression, to ending all the joy in your life, and those sorts of things, which we don't need to do. We need to keep our minds on the positive track and maintain a steady course, and understand that if we follow precautions and follow our health professionals, we'll be okay, and maybe that somebody in the listener's family will get contact the disease. There may be even a death, but those are unfortunate happenings that we're into, and it's not going to disappear with a wave of a magic wand, because nobody has that. So we have to sort of bear down and be positive and know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
That's wonderful. That gives people hope. And everyone listening, I know you'll appreciate it, because they've been asking me that question quite a bit. And then the next one was, do you think there'll be a third world war? I guess that they were saying, and they've asked me, when would it happen? Well, I know you don't really have exact whens, but I don't know. Do you think there is going to be a third world war?
No, I don't. And I've had discussions with Albert. I've had a number of discussions with the Council of Wise Ones on the spirit side. They're actually optimistic. They're saying that humanity is in a rough spot right now. We're at a crucial crossroads, and that we have to sort of bear down and focus on what's important. And what's important really is to embrace love and compassion, and control our negative emotions like fear, anger, hate, and greed. Those negative emotions are what causes all the problems and all the wars and the conflicts and the genocide and terrorist acts and so on. So we have to try to avoid that. But what they're saying is that they feel confident that we will pull through this. We won't have a third world war, and that eventually things will be on a much better playing field than we are now. But we all have to contribute to that. We have to everyone has to take the right step, and themselves, and try to convince their family, their neighbors, their co-workers to do the same, and we can pull through this. So the short answer is, I don't expect there'll be a third world war. No.
Good, thank you. Also, heard of one place that had so many people in a one-bedroom apartment or something. That is not a good thing to do either. And all people all together, they shouldn't, and they weren't wearing masks, and that's kind of irresponsible behavior, isn't it?
Yeah, and in some cases, people with extended families living under one household, of course, they're stuck with that. They can't really change that.
No.
But people can certainly avoid going to house parties, large house parties, or other gatherings that are optional. And if you can avoid going to those, that'll lessen your chance of contacting it or spreading it. And so we just have to bear down and keep in mind. And the worst thing we can do is relax and just think, okay, well, it's past, and I'm okay. You have to be vigilant. You have to be vigilant and keep up the measures, and that's the safest thing to do.
Well, thank you so much, and I think that pretty well covers one's questions for today, except one. Somebody wanted to know the difference between a psychic and a medium, and what I was told, I don't know if this is true, that psychics have the power to see what is happening in the distance, and the mediums are supposed to communicate with the passed over ones. Is that true?
That's pretty much my understanding too. And I'm not a psychic or a medium, but I've had contact with them, and in discussions with Albert, and he says, the mediums typically, their prime purpose is to connect with a loved one who's passed over and is on the spirit side. And so what they do is basically they're the intermediary on a conversation between somebody living on Earth and somebody who's a loved one who's passed on. So that's generally what their main function is. Psychics get information from the spirit side in a number of ways. They can get verbal communication, they can get symbols, and so in a number of cases when they're showing something, they have to sort of try to interpret it, or at least pass it on to the client and see if the client has any reaction to it. Now, psychics can look to a limited extent. They can look into the future, and they can see the most likely probability of events that may happen, except that they don't always happen that way, because the thing is that people have free will to act when they're on Earth, and if the person in question doesn't follow the most highly probable course of action that the psychic can see, then what they predict won't happen. So it's not etched in stone, but they can give you a fairly good idea. And I've discussed this in one of my books. For example, if a psychic says to you that you're going to get a promotion in your job in 1 year, and they're saying that on the basis that you continue on working hard and doing your job the way you should. But if you hear that and decide to slack off and stop working, then their prediction won't come true, because you've actually changed the parameters that they were basing their prediction on. So that's just one example, but psychics can give you a fairly good estimate of what may happen to you if you continue on the course that you're on.
Yeah, it's like one person I know was told that somebody in his family would die in a plane crash if they went on that day. Well, they didn't go on that day, and there was a crash, and people did lose their lives. So, what I'm saying is we change the direction sometimes, don't
Absolutely.
we?
Yeah, because we have free will actions every day, we can change the direction that we're currently heading in. And if we change that, then what the psychic saw won't happen.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's not etched in stone when they say this will happen. Like in your case, the person who didn't get on that plane, they were no doubt given an intuitive message by their guardian angel or their guide to say, don't go on that flight. And so because they didn't, and they didn't die in a crash. So that makes really good sense.
Yes, it does. Now, that's pretty well all the questions I wanted to go through for this time, but I have a whole bunch for next time I have you on, and we can keep educating the people, I hope. That's my dream anyway.
Happy to do so, yeah.
Yeah, and so now tell me, what have you been doing? Now, people have been saying, just who is this Garnet Schulhauser? And I said, I bet that I know that you were a lawyer and you met Albert, and maybe you could just sort of lead us up quickly to that. So we don't want to spend too much of your precious time on that because you have so much wonderful information to give to people. But just so people listening in for the first time will say, "Oh, who is this guy?"
Okay, well, I was a lawyer practicing law in Calgary, and I was a corporate lawyer, so I did company business and business law. And in any event, how my life was transformed basically was that I was strolling down the street one day in Calgary, and a homeless man jumped out in front of me. He looked like a typical homeless man, but he had these amazing, dazzling blue eyes that sort of infused my whole body with an amazing sense of peace and security and well-being. And so I stood there like a deer caught in the headlights, basking in the glow from this guy's eyes. And then he said to me, "Why are you here?" And that broke the spell, and he went into a nearby store. When I went into the store to try to find him, he was nowhere to be seen, and he wasn't out on the street, and so he had basically disappeared into thin air. So the next day, I decided to come back to that same street, the same time, see if I could find him. And after walking up and down for several blocks, I spotted him sitting all alone on a bench. And so I went up to him and I said, "Who are you, and why did you stop me the other day?" And he said, "I'm a soul just like you. I'm here to help you on your journey and answer your questions." So then I sat down on the bench, and we began a dialogue that went off and on over several months between him and I, where I'd ask questions and he would answer them. And he told me his name was Albert, and he was one of my spirit guides. And so we went through all this dialogue where I asked all the big questions in life, like who am I, what's my life purpose, what happens to me when I die, all those questions that every adult asks at one time or another. And he answered all those and many other questions that I asked him. And then he told me that I needed to write a book to describe his revelations so that everyone would be able to read them and understand them. So that led to my first book. And then after that manuscript was finished, he came back into my life in a different format. He appeared in my bedroom one night in astral form and said, "I'm taking you on some out-of-body trips, astral projection to the spirit side, other places in the universe, because I want you to write about what you see and hear on these various adventures." And so then that started my astral trips with Albert, and those trips are described in my next 4 books, which are published. And I still have contact with Albert. He has been in my life recently with further astral trips, which are being detailed in my 5th book, which is called Dancing with Angels in Heaven. And I just got the publishing contract from my publisher for that book, which I've signed, and so that book is now underway in terms of the publishing track. It will be out, I suspect, sometime in 2021.
Oh, that's exciting, and I was feeling that when you had our last interview, that you were going to be doing that now and getting it started. Now, what, just for the folks to listen to, what are the names of your books? Your first book you wrote was? Dancing
on a Stamp. Then that was followed by Dancing Forever with Spirit.
Dancing Forever, yeah.
The Dancing of Heavenly Bliss.
Heavenly Bliss.
And then Dance of Eternal Rapture.
Eternal Rapture. And the last one is?
The last one is called Dancing with Angels in Heaven.
Dancing with Angels in Heaven. I like that. Yeah, so you really have now, wow, you're really up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books, eh?
Yeah, the fifth one is, it's not published yet, but it's in the works. So.
Oh, that's so good. So what do you have to share today with our listening audience that would be kind of uplifting in that? And maybe some of the questions that you asked Albert. Why are we here? I like that. And what is our purpose? And, things like that.
Well, the good thing about what my conversation with Albert is he basically sort of laid the groundwork sort of for the cycle of reincarnation on our planet. And basically the starting point is that we're all eternal souls. Like we live eternally. We're in our true form, we're beings of energy, and our true home is the spirit side, which is a very high vibrational sort of dimension. And so why do we come here is because we came here to incarnate into a physical body on Earth, into a human body, so that we can learn some lessons and face some challenges that we feel that we need for our evolution and growth as a soul. So our sole purpose for being here is to learn lessons and to face challenges and see if we can overcome them. And it's sort of like a test for us as a soul to see how we can manage in a very harsh environment, which is what planet Earth really is. And so why are we here? Because we chose to come here, every one of us. We all chose individually to come here to be in the life and the body that we now have. And we set out certain sort of, as I mentioned, tests and challenges for us to face and to try to overcome. And so that sort of deviates from people who say, if they're suffering from a bad time, they can say, well, why is the universe being cruel to me, or why is God being cruel to me? Why are they doing this to me? The answer is we chose to come here ourselves. We chose to face challenges, and we can't blame anyone else. It's not God or the source. It's not the universe doing anything to us. It's we're here, and we're reacting to events on this planet, and how we react to events determines how we enjoy our journey or don't enjoy it, and how we fulfill our goals and aspirations. So that's why we're here. But the good comforting thing about all that is that at the end of the day, we all go back to the same place that it came from, to the spirit side, which is a wonderful place, beautiful place full of unconditional love. There are no negative emotions. There's no pain, suffering. We don't need to eat, drink, breathe, or procreate. We're just beings of energy over there. And so we're going to go back there. So no matter how tough your life may be, or what sort of rough patch you may be going through, at the end of the day, that's where you're going to go back to, and everyone goes there, so there's no exceptions.
And is that not when a person dies? It's when we go to sleep at night, or? Well, both. You see, it happens when we die, when our physical bodies finally die. That's when our souls leave that physical body for good and go back to the spirit side to transition over there. Once back there, we get to look at what we did in our lives in a life review, and we can see where we've done some good deeds, where we've fallen off track and done some bad things, and that's all a learning experience. Now, every night, our souls also leave our bodies temporarily while we're sleeping, and we go off to the spirit side where we can consult with our guides and find out sort of how we're doing and make an assessment of where we are in our life plan. But in the morning, we all come back to our bodies, and we're not generally allowed to remember that we've had this astral trip to the spirit side, and that's by design. So we leave our bodies every night temporarily, and then we leave our bodies permanently when our physical bodies die. So there's no need to be afraid of death?
Oh, heck no. And in fact, if people knew how wonderful the spirit side was, they would not only be not afraid of death, but they'd look forward to it, because it is such a wonderful place. But of course, there's no point in trying to end your life before you've met all your challenges and faced your tests, because
got to come back and do it all over again.
Yeah, that's right. You're going to come back and do it all over again. So you might as well tough it out through the rough patches, get through it, learn your lessons, and then you won't have to do it again, or at least not for those lessons. So it's really a case of you should never be afraid of dying, because it's going to be a wonderful place that you're going to, and not only you, but everyone around you, your family, your loved ones who've already passed, your family who's still alive. You're all going to end up back there, and it's just going to be a great sort of gathering of all the souls in your family. Will at one point be gathering back in the spirit side to sort of go over what happened to each of you, and try to help each other in terms of what could you have done better, and what you might do better the next time you choose a life.
And we will be judging ourselves. We won't be judged by another entity or person, will we? No.
And contrary to what a lot of religions have preached, including a Christian religion, God does not judge us. No one judges us when we're finished. and there's no punishment. Hell does not exist. There's no punishment. Everyone goes back to the same place. And so, yeah, at the end of the day, when you're back, when your body dies and you're back in the spirit side, you will be the one, you're the only person who will judge what you've done, and nobody else judges you. And it's not a harsh judgment, it's sort of a learning tool to say, okay, well, I made some mistakes in this life, and what can I do when I choose my next life to try to make amends and do better?
And can you choose not to have a next life on Earth if you wish? Absolutely,
because there's so many places to incarnate in our universe. Like the universe is full of planets that have life forms, and some of the life forms are more primitive than humans, some are more advanced, but we can choose as a soul to incarnate into any one of those. It doesn't have to be on planet Earth, or you can just choose to stay on the spirit side if you want to. You don't have to incarnate anywhere.
Yeah, and I've heard that our Earth is one of the hardest places to. Is that true to kind of come to?
Absolutely. Albert has said that the Earth School is one of the toughest in the universe.
Wow.
It's a very tough school, and he has told me many times that every human on Earth should pat themselves on the back for being so courageous as to come to this very harsh and dangerous school.
Well, you know that is true and becoming more truer every moment almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, Earth is no walk in the park. I mean, there's lots of, you just have to listen to the news every night to see what's all the bad stuff that's going on. I mean, not just the pandemic, but all kinds of other conflicts and riots and protests and everything else. I mean, it's a pretty grim place. But as I said, it's not going to end badly. We will pull out of it. We just have to all work together.
And we're certainly not saying be in a hurry to get to the other side. We're saying when it comes, don't be afraid of it. Isn't that right?
Exactly, yeah. Don't be in a rush to get there, but understand that it's going to be a very nice ending for you, and so that'll really help you with your journey. If you realize why you're here, and the fact that you're here to learn some lessons and just have a journey to grow and evolve, and you end up back in a beautiful place, that makes your journey much more easier to live with. Even if it's a harsh journey, you'll know that it's going to end very, very nicely for you.
And what kind of makes the person make the decision if they want to go again, or if they've had enough, they just say, no, I want to stay here, then what do they do? Do they find things to do?
Oh, yeah, there's lots of things to do in the spirit side. It's not like when I was a kid and I envisioned, they taught me about heaven, and they didn't say what heaven was all about, and I thought, does that mean you lay on a cloud and listen to harp music all day? No, that's not. It's a very dynamic environment where you can learn things, you can acquire knowledge, you can attend lectures of famous people on the spirit side. You can do sports activities, recreation activities. You can actually tour the world or the universe in astral form and see what's going on in different places in the universe without actually physically incarnating. So you can actually do a lot without incarnating, but that's sort of what Albert calls that book learning, where you can sort of you can learn about things from a book or from a video or whatever. But he says you can't really fully appreciate what's going on the denser planes until you physically incarnate into a physical body, in this case a human body.
Isn't that the truth? That is so true. Well, that sort of helps people to hang on to that hope and not think that's all there is. You know how they say
yes.
There's more, isn't there? Lots more, I think.
There's lots more, yeah. And just to get back to your point, the person who makes the decision about whether you incarnate again on Earth or another planet or stay on the spirit side is entirely up to you. No one directs you. No one forces you to take out life or to do anything. It's entirely up to you. And you can develop yourself, spiritually at your own pace. There's no timetables because you're eternal. No deadlines. You can go as slow or as fast as you want. And so if you want to have, 10 lives on Earth and then leave, you can. Or if you want to have 200, you can do that too.
Well, is it like people that are set out to be kind and loving and help people, and then there's people that just want to be mean? How does that react? I mean, how do they go back to this wonderful spiritual place, even though they're like Hitler and people like that?
Yes, they do, and a lot of people find that hard to accept because they sort of have a feeling that if somebody was bad, say someone was a murderer on Earth, that they should be punished, if not, in addition to being punished on earth, they should be punished in the afterlife. That's just what we were taught, what a lot of religions teach, is that you have to be good or else you'd be punished in the afterlife. The reality is everyone goes back to the spirit side. Hitler, serial killers, terrorists, everyone goes back there. And I know that some of your listeners will be shaking their heads saying, no, that can't be, that's not fair, that's not just. But that's just the way it is. You see, because people on the spirit side view a life on earth like someone being an actor in a play. So that if you're acting, say, in a Broadway play, and the script calls for you to stab and kill the other actor, that's what's in the script, and you do so, well, when the curtain goes down and you leave the theater, you're not arrested for murder because it didn't really happen, and the actor that you stabbed in the play does not have any animosity or hatred towards you because it was all play acting. So the people on the spirit side, when they look at what's going on earth, they view it similarly, in that we're all here and we all have free will to act. We don't remember why we came here because we don't remember what's in our life plan, and so quite often our free will take us off course. And the people who do mean things and harm other people are the people who let their negative emotions get out of control and control their lives. And the people who do the good deeds are the ones who fully embrace love and compassion, and they understand that everyone around them is a soul just like them, having a human journey on earth. Yeah. And as soon as they appreciate that we're not separate, that we're all sort of connected to each other and to the source, then people won't hate or be distrustful of other people who have a different color of skin or a different religion, speak a different language, or worship a different god. They'll understand that we're just all having a journey, and that we are stumbling around sometimes without a lot of direction, but that's just part of a life on earth. And everyone who incarnated here knows full well that when we incarnate on earth, we're likely to run into people who let their negative emotions rule their lives, and that's just part of the challenges they have to deal with on earth.
But that doesn't say that they can, just because they're not going to suffer in the eternal life, that doesn't mean to say they go out and do mean things, does it? It doesn't give them. No,
it doesn't give them carte blanche to just go ahead and do things because they have to. There are secular punishments. Our governments, you can go to jail, you can be. Yeah. Fined, whatever. In some places you can be executed. So you have to pay attention to the laws of humans on earth. But the fact that you don't won't be punished in the afterlife should not change anyone's mind. Because when you get back there, you're going to look back at your life and the evil things you've done, and you're going to feel badly about it. You're going to wonder, gosh, I wish I hadn't done that. I need to make amends. And so it's not a clean slate that just gives you the carte blanche to do whatever you want.
And we all have times wished I hadn't reacted that way. I wish I hadn't said that. I wish I hadn't done that. That's human nature too, isn't it, to have those? Absolutely.
And the interesting thing, Dr. Ann, is that when you transition when you transition over to the spirit side after your physical body dies, is that you have a life review, and the life review is basically a detailed review of the life you've just finished. And so you can go over and you can see all the things that you may have forgotten now, like your conscious mind may not remember the things, but you'll get to see everything, the good and the bad. And not only that, but you'll get to hear feel the emotions and listen to the thoughts and the feelings of the people that you interact with. So if you said something mean to somebody one day, when your life review, you'll be able to feel the hurt and the anguish from that person when they heard your words and they wondered, why are you being cruel to me? I didn't do anything to you, kind of thing. And so it's very much of a learning tool, and so you really get the full picture when you get the reaction from the people that you interacted with, and that really gives you the lesson to learn, which is be very careful about what you say and do, and try to understand how it will affect the other people that you're talking to, because sometimes they will take it the wrong way. So you have to be very careful.
Yes, you do. Now, I was going to ask you too. Now, when this goes and people leave the world, does that mean that they know who they are? Like, will you know that you are Garnet Schulhauser? And what about your wife who was not born Schulhauser? That kind of question comes up. What will happen with that?
Well, we all basically, when our physical bodies die and our souls go to the spirit side, excuse me, we retain our personalities. So and all of our memories. And so when I get to the other side, I won't necessarily be known as Garnet Schulhauser, but everyone who knew me in this life or in previous lives will know who I am, because we each have a unique energy signature. And when we're over there, we can show ourselves to other people any way we want. So when I go back to the spirit side, when my body dies, I can show myself to other people as Garnet Schulhauser, or I can show myself as somebody else who lived in a previous life, or I can just be a ball of energy, a ball of light. Okay. But however I show myself, the other people will know who I am, and so so my wife will know who I am. I'll know who she is. I'll know who I'll be able to recognize my parents who died, and my brother and other grandparents who've already predeceased me. So everyone will know exactly who we are, and there's no secrets on the spirit side. Everything is very transparent.
I really like the transparency, because everybody tries family. Oh, it's a family secret. It's a family skeleton or whatever.
Yeah, there's no secrets here. Everything's transparent. So you can't go to the spirit side and try to pretend that you did something better than what you did in your last life, because everyone knows exactly what you did. Yeah. And so there's no desire to do so, because everything's all open. It's sort of like, okay, I finished a life and I messed up. I did some really bad things, but I'm going to try to do better. And the people, the souls on the spirit side, will shower you with unconditional love and say, okay, if we can help you in any way in terms of choosing your next life, or give you advice or guidance, we're here for you, and we understand what you went through, and we know that you want to do better the next time.
Yeah, wow. And that's interesting, because it won't be life as we know it here, though. Like, you won't be really married to your wife, and because I've had more than one husband, I don't have to worry about hurting anybody's feelings, because that won't come into effect, will it? Because it's unconditional love.
Yes, unconditional love for everyone, and there's no attachments. There's no marriage. There's no other hookups between two souls
or children.
No, and the same with, there's no children. And a soul who may have been your child in this life won't be regarded as your child in the spirit side. We'll just be like, everyone's equal, everyone's transparent, and everyone showers unconditional love on everyone else. And there's no attachments, so you don't have to worry about if you run into two former husbands on the spirit side. It won't be a problem.
That's good. That's good to know. I always thought, what would I do there?
Understandably.
Yeah, I did. I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Well, folks, you're listening to the Dr. Anne Marie Evers Show, and we'll be right back after a short break with more for my special guest, and I'm sure that he'll touch on some things that you've been wondering about as well. And I like to have Garnet come on quite often as a guest, because then we can kind of keep things going, and you can get all the questions answered, because he certainly can't answer them all today. So anyway, we'll be back in just a flash, and we're listening to the Dr. Anne Marie Evers Show.
When was the last time you read a book that has created a profound impact on your life? This book is touching deep into the hearts of readers worldwide and empowering people with new hope to conquer over a life of despair, loneliness, and sadness. This book is called Affirmations, Your Passport to Happiness, by Dr. Anne Marie Evers. In this book, you'll learn the power of affirmations, creating visualization, goal setting, positive thinking, self-esteem, learn how to attract the perfect, lasting, successful career, relationship, and have optimal health. To order your copy, log on to www.affirmations-doctor.com or email AnneMarieEvers@shore.ca and get your passport to happiness. Affirmations, Your Passport to Happiness, the book that's giving people positive control over their lives once again.
And welcome back to the Dr. Anne Marie Evers Show, where dreams really can and do come true. And you know, Garnet, I've been doing these shows for 15 years. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Yeah. And I used to do them every week. That was a little bit much, so I'm doing them now twice a month, and I really enjoy it because I can get good guests, and I learn so much. We learn so much from other people, don't we?
We certainly do, yeah.
Yeah. Now, have you anything burning you want to share with our listeners, maybe something about your new book coming out or something?
Yeah, I would like to. I don't want to get into details until it's published, but excuse me. But there's one of the things about my new book is that I got to on the spirit side, on a trip with Albert, I got to sit in on what they called an orientation class for new souls who had not previously been to planet Earth, had not incarnated. So it was an orientation class about how life plans work and how the cycle of reincarnation works, and the challenges that you can face on Earth. So it was really kind of a nice synopsis of what Albert has told me, spread out over through my previous 4 books. And so it was kind of like putting it all together in one spot. And this is for the new souls, so they can understand what goes on planet Earth, and do I want to really incarnate there or not. But then I met a number of other interesting souls. I met, for example, I had a very nice conversation with Mother Teresa.
Oh, and how is she doing? Pretty good?
She's doing just fine. And Mother
what a
Teresa,
wonderful lady.
Yeah, and she's actually a very humble soul, like incredibly humble, non-assuming. She basically we have a discussion about what she did, and I mentioned the fact that she was canonized by the Catholic Church. She's now Saint Teresa. And she just sort of poo-pawed that and said, that's no big deal. She said, she says everyone in the spirit side is a saint, basically, and so she's no different. So she didn't take a lot of credit for what she did, but she's really a lovely lady, and I really there's a nice conversation I have with her in there, and in particular she does she goes over sort of the important points that happens in the life review, which she had in her life review, and so it's really quite an interesting revelation. I also have had a conversation with Marie Antoinette.
Oh, really?
Yes, and we had a conversation with her about how things evolved, and in terms of the French Revolution, and she ended up losing her head. Oh. And one of the things she said was that she was, in hindsight, she said that she and King Louis XVI, who was her husband, and they both lost their heads in the guillotine. And she said that she was. I asked her, was she apprehensive about having her head chopped off, and she said, yeah, she was initially, but then just before the time came for her to march to the guillotine, her spirit guides appeared to her, and they basically assured her that she was her physical body was going to die, but she would not die, her soul would not die, and that they would when her head was chopped off, they would lead her to the spirit side where she'd be back to a wonderful place. And so that gave her a lot of comfort. And so even though nobody else could see them, they were marching beside her as they took her to the guillotine, and so that gave her a lot of comfort. And so that was quite interesting.
Yeah. What about her husband? I guess he.
Well, he died first, and so he was already on the spirit side, and she obviously met up with him after she crossed over, and they both sort of had a chuckle. I mean, it's funny, you shouldn't chuckle about those things, but they sort of said, well, we should have seen it coming. We should have done something to appease the peasants, and if we had, there wouldn't have been a revolution. But anyway, hindsight's 20/20. Yeah. So she said, well, that's fine, and we went through that life, and now we can plan our next one. So that was very interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, and I had another interesting conversation with a lady who had a terminal illness. She had terminal cancer, and she was very frightened. She had no religion, very frightened about what would happen to her. She was afraid of being alone, and so she was just basically terrified of dying. And what she said was that just before the final days when she was in the hospital, her spirit guides appeared to her, and she was the only one who could see them, and they appeared to her, and they reassured her about what was happening, that she was not really going to die. Her physical body would perish, but she would be going on to a wonderful place, and that they would be there with her the whole step of the way, taking her by the hand back to the spirit side. And so she said that was a huge comfort to her, and it just made her final days so much easier to take. And her message to everyone was, you're never alone, you won't die alone. Somebody's always going to be there, your spirit guides, to lead you back to the spirit side.
Well, there are some people listening, I know, that are with my groups here that I teach and help, and they are facing that very same thing. So I'm going to make sure they hear this, because this is going to help them,
Yeah, and it's not, and if they haven't seen their spirit guides yet, it's telling them not to despair, because they will come just before the final moments to give them comfort. And so it's nice to know that you're going to have a really nice angelic escort back to the spirit side when your body takes its last breath. And so,
remember, a man was just on his last breath that I was talking to years ago, and he kept looking up at the door, at the top of the door, and he just had his eyes fixed on that, almost like he was seeing something we couldn't see, of course.
I think he was, yeah.
I believe he was too. So that's a good thing that we have that. Now, what else would you like to leave with the people that would help them, especially at this particular time in life, in the world?
Well, I mean, the big thing is that you have to understand that you're on a sort of a trip, a journey, a human journey through Earth, and that it will end at some point in time, and that you'll go back to a lovely spot, and that if people realize that everyone here is having a human journey, in a human body, and we're all basically the same. We're all souls. We're all equal. There's no hierarchy. We all chose our journeys, and so if you understand that you're here because you chose this journey, you chose this life, you chose your parents, you chose the place you're going to be born, you chose your siblings, your spouse, your children, and so all that was sort of laid out. And you have, because you have free will to act when you're on Earth, you don't necessarily follow your plan to a T, but you got most of the things there, and you just a matter of when you come to face a challenge. We all have challenges.
Yes, you do.
And you have to understand that you have to sort of face the challenge and conquer it, because if you don't, it's going to keep coming back to face you. And so you have to, you're going through a rough patch. You have to understand that there's a lesson to be learned there, something to be overcome, and you need to do it. Otherwise, it's going to come back and keep on reappearing. And so you have to sort of tough your way through it, knowing full well that even if you make mistakes, you're still going to go back to the spirit side when your physical body dies. So people have to keep that in mind. And then when they understand that when you see somebody, as I mentioned, other people with different color of skin or speaking a different language or different customs, if you understand that they're a soul just like you, having their own journey in that body which they chose, then there's less chance that you're going to be distrustful of them or hate them or feel that you have to do them harm, because you're going to think, okay, this is like my brother or my sister in that body, and I have to understand that they are trying to struggle their way through this journey, and I should treat them with love and compassion and kindness.
Yeah, and then there'd be no jealousy if everyone was judged as the same. You know what I mean? But then they don't have to try and be the best salesman or saleswoman in the world, do they? They just be themselves and get through the lessons here on Earth. Isn't that basically?
Yeah. We have to understand there's too much competition on Earth, too much competition for money and for good jobs and for all the material things that we tend to strive for. When we're back in the spirit side, we realize that it really has no relevance at all. That's not the goal here. The goal here is to try to be the best that we can, use our abilities the best that we can, keeping in mind that some people have more talent than others, some people are smarter than others, and that's just because that's how the human race works. And that if somebody chose to be in a situation where they have a physical deformity, like being a paraplegic or being blind or whatever, they should understand that they chose that. They chose that because that was a challenge they wanted to face and overcome. And so if you sort of understand that, then it makes your life, your journey, a lot more easier to fulfill, to carry out, because you understand why you're there and where you're going to end up. And so, and if you understand that, then it's easier for you to express love and compassion for other people who are having their own journey, because you understand that they're just like you. They're having a journey that they're trying to fulfill.
It's their journey, and it doesn't matter how much, like people say, be known by their good works. But I guess it really is no good works. It's just works that we can create. You can call it good or bad or whatever, isn't it?
Yeah, and we should all strive to do the best that we can. And in terms of dealing with other people, the best advice is to love them like a brother or a sister and treat them that way. And if for some reason you go off track and you end up being mean to somebody or harming them, just understand that that's a lesson to be learned from, and then try to do better. But at the end of the day, no one says that you're a good person or a bad person. You're just a soul, and whatever you did on Earth is just something that you had to learn from. Whether you learned it or not, it was a journey that you undertook, and that when you get back to the spirit side, you can say, well, do I want to go back and try to do better, or do I want to skip planet Earth and go somewhere else?
Now, I know. Now, there's one question somebody asked, and are people rewarded for their good works on the Earth, or is it just taken as their own personal lesson? That was what they wanted to know.
Yeah, there's no rewards as such on the spirit side, just as there's no punishment. So when you get back, your physical body dies, you go to the spirit side. You can when you look back on your life, you can take pride in the good things that you did, and that's a sense of satisfaction that, okay, I did some pretty good things. But you also have to appreciate that you may have done some bad things, and so there's no rewards, there's no punishment. It's just you look back on it, and it's I went through this life and I learned some lessons, or I didn't learn them, and I faced some challenges, and it's all a learning experience.
And
that's
it
how you
is
have to regard
what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Do you ever have times when even you think, how can this be happening? Because I know people sometimes they read the Bible and they say that they how can this be happening? Or they read somebody wrote something, a minister or a psychologist or something, and then do you ever have any doubts? Is what I'm saying. But with you, you've had something so much hands-on, haven't you? Like, I mean, that is real.
Yeah, and no, I have no doubts about what Albert has told me, or what I've learned from my trips, astral trips to the spirit side. I have no doubt whatsoever. I mean, the people on the spirit side, when they tell you something, you know it's true, because people just cannot lie on the spirit side. I mean, there's no deception; it's all transparent. So what you hear from the spirits is just the absolute truth, and that's what Albert tells me, and I have no doubts whatsoever. I know there's a lot of people who think that what Albert has told me is just a load of hooey. I have no doubts that it's not, that it's the truth, because it's one of those things when somebody tells you something, Dr. Ann, you know in your heart it either feels right or it feels wrong.
You're right, and lots of times you hear something and think, that doesn't sound right. And
exactly.
then you start thinking about it, and it really isn't. And then other times it feels like you've come home. I know now, like in one place I went, I felt so comfortable, I felt like I had come home.
Yeah.
And it was really neat. And that's kind of how I think, too, is that it is important to be good to people and help people, though. But I think when we help people, that actually, when I do that, it helps me more than it helps them, if you want to know the truth.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's exactly the feeling that a lot of people have, is that when you're helping somebody else, you're also helping yourself to a great deal. You're helping your own evolution, your own growth. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's why you're here, is to learn and to grow and evolve. But helping people is a good way of getting that feeling in yourself, as opposed to being harmful to people, in which case then you may be troubled by guilt and so on. So you're always better off to do good deeds than bad deeds.
And I always feel so happy when people say, "Oh, I remember what you told me 20 years ago," and I'm thinking, I don't remember. But they do. So
exactly. It must have been very profound, Dr. Ann.
Pardon me?
What you told them must have been very profound for them to remember it.
Yes, and yeah, I guess, to remember it, that you said so-and-so, and I said I did. And I've been doing it all the time. Like I say to people, and they say, "Oh, this won't happen." I say, well, instead of saying it won't happen, let's try and find ways to make it happen, if that's what you want. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're just turning the coin a bit. And I've been teaching the Power of Affirmations, oh my goodness, ever since I was about 28, and and I sort of like grew up doing affirmations. My sister calls me one great big affirmation.
I take that as a compliment, Dr.
Yeah, I do. I think it's wonderful. And Johnny Enoch, he's such a wonderful guy too. And he said to say hi from him and his wife. And he's really he said, "You and I think the same on so many things." And I said, "I know. I really enjoy him. He's so much fun."
Yeah, and I really enjoyed Johnny and his wife, and please give them my regards.
I sure will. I did the last time we did our show too, and they were very delighted. So anyway, so what I was going to say, we still have about 5 minutes or so left, and I really want you to get something that you need to say to the folks in this time we have left.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Albert sort of, when you're looking at your journey on Earth and everything can seem to be at times very terrible and very distressful and so on. Albert has told me many times, he said, whatever you do, don't take life so seriously. It may seem like everything is very serious, he said, but recognize that you're on an adventure that you chose for yourself, and that you have free will to make decisions and take actions, and sometimes you're going to go off course, but don't distress over it. Don't be so wrapped up in the seriousness of what you regard as what's happening around you or your life that you can't enjoy your journey. It says the main thing is to enjoy it, learn from it, and know full well that at the end of the day, no matter how many wrong turns you take, you can end up back on the spirit side, which is just a wonderful place. And so he's really saying, try to enjoy your journey, laugh lots, smile at everyone you see, and try to just have a joyful day as opposed to a fearful or distressful day.
That's so true. And you know what my acronym for SMILE is?
What?
Simple message. I love everyone.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah. And one lady says, I don't want to love everyone. I said, well, then say, simple message, I like everyone. You know? Yeah. And it's so true. When you see somebody in the mall and they look so downhearted or something and you smile, you'd be amazed at how much that smile probably means to them. We don't know.
Oh, absolutely. It means a great deal, Dr. Ann. And not only that, but that sort of a positive act of smiling has a ripple effect, because the person you smile at may turn around and smile at somebody else, and that thing can kind of ripple out. And that's the kind of positivity that we want in our society, where good deeds, random acts of kindness, smiles can just sort of ripple through the whole society.
Yeah, we sure do. And now let's get people how they can get in touch with you, and so that it's the easiest way, and make sure that they have the proper spelling and everything. Okay, well, the best way to get information about me and to contact me is through my website, which is garnetschulhauser.com, and I'll spell that GarnetSchulhauser.com. So Garnet Schulhauser is one word, and you get to my website and you can get information about my books. You can dial into all my social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and you can also go directly to a number of online bookstores sites where you just click on that and you get right to where you can buy my books. And so that's the best source of information. Also, all of the radio shows that I've ever done, all the interviews, the recordings are on my website, so they can access all of them. And I think this is like 156 for me, so I've done a lot of them. Wow, and 156.
Yeah, and all those are posted on YouTube, my YouTube page as well, so they can sort of catch up on everything. And my email address is there on my website, which is contact@garnetschulhauser.com. And if any of your listeners have a question or a comment, they should feel free to send me an email.
That's great. And folks, do that. You don't have to go through me necessarily. Go directly through Garnet. And if you want to talk to me about something else, and that I don't want to say don't come to me, but I mean go directly to Garnet's website. It's a beautiful website. You've got so much on there, and boy, people can spend hours just enjoying reading all the stuff there is. Not stuff, but interesting information.
Thank you for saying that, Dr. Ann. I appreciate that.
Because I know, and it's information that some people are not going to accept, and then they asked me, if you ever get discouraged, and I said, well, he's human. I think he does. I don't know.
Well, yeah, of course, it's human to be discouraged from time to time, but I'm generally pretty upbeat because I understand. I mean, what I've told people is that I'm not here to convert anyone to any particular understanding or belief system. All I'm here to do is to spread Albert's message. People can read what Albert tells me. They can either accept it or reject it. It's entirely up to them.
You're just sharing what you know.
And sharing what I know, yeah, and they can accept it or reject it, and it doesn't upset me if people say I reject it. That's fine. I always tell people, at the end of the day, when we're both dead and we're both on the spirit side, then we'll both know who was telling the truth.
I like that. That's really good. Well, as always, you're a wonderful, wonderful guest, and I just love talking to you, and I feel I learn a lot every time I do, and I'm going to keep gathering questions, and I think this will help the people too, and this is what we want to do, is help open people's eyes, and that's what HOPE is. My acronym for HOPE is help open people's eyes. And that's what you're doing. So
that's good. I like that.
So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
We'll do it again. And for everyone, what would your parting words be to them?
In these troubling times with the pandemic that we talked about, just stay the course, tough it out. We will come through at the end of the day. There's light at the end of the tunnel. So do not overly despair. We will get through this.
Beautiful. That's wonderful. Thank you. And I look forward to you coming on again and say hello to your wife and family. And Yes, and I say just stay doing the one things you're doing and sharing with people, and that's what I like to do too. Say, when they're discouraged, do an affirmation. Think positive. Try to think of all the good things, and be thankful. Live in an attitude of gratitude. And I like to say thank you for the blessings I have received, the ones I am receiving, and guess what? The ones I'm about to receive. So that covers the past, present, and future all in one. So.
That's very good, Dr. Ann. A good message for everyone.
Yeah, and I just love listening to what you have to say, and you express it so well. And I'm sure if you really thought about it, Albert's pretty proud of you too.
I certainly hope so, but he doesn't tend to speak much about that. He doesn't want my head to get too big.
No. Tell him no. Say you can't do that because that wouldn't be the right thing. So just keep the way you are. That's the sure thing.
Thank you.
And I want to thank everybody for listening. And please check out my website, AnnMarieEvers.com. I have 30 videos, short. They're 3 to 4 minutes, and they're fun ones about different things like spiritual disinfectant and eating a whole apple, sort of giving affirmation life tools. And I have a stop sign right beside me, and every time I feel discouraged, I take that little stop sign and I say, stop, change direction. And I start thinking about something wonderful, and guess what? I start feeling better. And then I have another one, it's green, that says go, and then I say go for it. And just those little things, and even though they might sound childish, they do make an imprint in your mind.
Absolutely, and I think that your use of affirmations is a very positive thing to do, and I think people should be encouraged to follow your advice.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and also my associate has done a wonderful job, Michael. If people go to www.selfimprovementtalkradio.com, and I'll say it again. It's www.selfimprovementtalkradio.com. And it has so many articles and things from people and Think and Grow Rich and all these different things, and that he has made up, and he talks about affirmations. So I'd love you folks to visit that too, and be sure you go to Garnet's website and purchase his books. He's got lots of really good books there. You should have the whole set. And I'm hoping that I will be able to purchase one of the new one coming up too.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll certainly let you know when the new one is out.
Yes,
it'll take a while, but I'll let you know.
Okay, and then we can do a sort of a launch on here too, and maybe do something if so many people are interested that we can give them a special price or something, or do something that would encourage people to get that book there. And I don't know how you do that exactly, but you probably know more about that than me. But
we will work something out. Yeah, we'll work it out. Yeah, that's a good idea.
And thank you so much, and God bless. And we'll be with you. We'll be doing it again shortly. And I want to say thanks to Cameron for making this show possible. I really appreciate all he does and his interest and his love and his work. So, and I appreciate you too. And I'd love to drop away on the island, drop in and say hi to you and your wife.
Yeah, please do. That would be delightful. We'll get together, and thank you again for having me on your show.
Thank you so much, and we'll be back same time, same station, folks. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Garnet.
Bye-bye.
Well, if you have a problem and you don't know where to go, just dial up the internet and listen to the show. Tune in to Dr. Evers, she'll lift your spirits high. Her affirmations lead you from the darkness to the light. Say thank you, thank you, thank you, believe with all your soul. When properly done, they always work, you know. Oh, just say an affirmation. Love, health, and abundance beginning to show. Oh, just say an affirmation. Show your gratitude and the blessings will flow. Oh, just say an affirmation. Love, health, and abundance beginning to show. Oh, just say an affirmation. Show your gratitude and the blessings will flow. Yeah.
At Bromwich & Smith, we hope you haven't heard of us, because we hope you haven't had to deal with mounting debt. But if you are starting to feel debt's pressure, our hope is to provide you with hope. Bromwich & Smith is a licensed insolvency trustee committed to providing debt relief. To learn about consumer proposals, a flexible, federally protected alternative to bankruptcy, visit bromwichandsmith.com, spelt BROMWICH and smith.com.